first human rights defender. Adeline Dumapong, 36 years old, is a person with a disability. At age 3, she lost the use of her legs to polio. Growing up as a paraplegic could not have been easy, as any one of us can imagine. But Adeline was determined that her wheelchair was not to become her prison. As a child, she participated in various sports, particularly in wheelchair racing, as well as in javelin throw and shot put, competing against other persons with disabilities. In 1999, Adeline won a silver medal in her first international powerlifting competition. This was at the Far East and South Pacific Games, which were held in Bangkok, Thailand. Since then, she has been collecting medals in various international competitions. She won a gold in 1999 at the Asian Bench Press Championships, a silver in the Far East and South Pacific Games in Bangkok, Thailand. She won a bronze in the Paralympic Games in Sydney, Australia in 2000, a gold in the same year at the 10th Malaysian Paralympiad in Kuala Lumpur, and another gold in the U.S. Paralympic qualifiers in Florida. In 2002, Adeline won a silver medal in the Far East and South Pacific Games in Busan, Korea. In 2003, she won another gold at the second ASEAN Para Games in Hanoi, Vietnam. In 2005, this is quite a long list, she won a gold in the third ASEAN Para Games in Manila. 2 years later, another gold in the Asian Powerlifting Open Championship, also in Manila. In 2008, she won the gold medal in the fourth ASEAN Para Games in Korat, Thailand. And more recently, in 2009, she won 2 golds, one in the IWAS World Games in Bangalore, India, and in the 5th ASEAN Para Games in Kuala Lumpur. She holds the distinction of being the first and only Filipino Paralympic Games medalist to date. PhilSPADA, or the Philippine Sports Association for the Differently Abled, National Paralympic Committee of the Philippines, recognized Adeline's contribution towards changing the public's perception of persons with disabilities, or PWDs in short. So she has demonstrated that PWDs are not necessarily helpless and dependent. Instead, they can aspire for the same accomplishments as persons not encumbered by physical limitations. Early this year, PhilSPADA nominated Adeline to represent the Philippines in the International Paralympic Committee Athletic Leadership Summit in Bonn, Germany. Adeline thought that by that time, the people had learned to look beyond the obvious about her. She was especially hopeful that the Philippine Sports Commission would be supportive of an accomplished athlete such as herself. Unfortunately, Adeline would discover that discrimination against PWDs still runs deeply, and nowhere was this kind of discrimination more deeply ingrained than in the highest official of the Philippine Sports Commission, Mr. Harry Angping. Adeline went to see Angping about getting financial support for her trip to Bonn, as I said, to participate in the Paralympic Summit. She arrived at the Philippine Sports Commission building at the designated hour. However, she could not go up to Angping's 4th floor office because the building's elevator was not big enough to fit in, for her wheelchair to fit in. So she requested the security guard to kindly request Mr. Angping to meet her at the lobby instead. Angping made Adeline wait for 2 hours. When he finally came down, he told Adeline in a loud voice that she should not have bothered to see him because it is not the Philippine Sports Commission's job to help disabled athletes. He further said that the Philippine Sports Commission did not consider disabled athletes as competitive and that Adeline should have gone instead to the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Adeline recalls how she felt about that incident, and I quote, "I should have known that the chairman's tardiness and failure to apologize was an indication of how little he thought of me as a person. After hearing him vent for almost 30 minutes, I felt so beaten that I cried. I cried because of embarrassment. I cried out of frustration, because although I wanted to answer back at him, I couldn't because I respected his high position. Most of all, I cried because of a sad truth that dawned on me. The chairman of the Philippine Sports Commission did not fully grasp the reality that sports is for all, including children, youth, women, and people with disabilities." Despite occupying the highest position in the Philippine Sports Commission, Chairman Ang Ping needs to be enlightened. We now have the Magna Carta for people with disabilities, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and other laws that uplift and protect the rights of PWDs. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities declares that the state should enable persons with disabilities to participate on an equal basis with others in recreational, leisure, and sporting activities, including encouraging and promoting the participation to the fullest extent possible of persons with disabilities in mainstream sporting activities at all levels. When Ang Ping told Adeline that she ought to seek help from the social welfare development, he implied that a disabled athlete was not a true athlete, but a charity case. 2 years after the Philippines ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of PWDs, discrimination against this sector continues to be a stumbling block to people like Adeline, who are working day after day to get others to look past appearances and to see PWDs as persons who, rather than being reduced by a circumstance of birth or accident, are able to overcome their limitations in order to live full and active lives. Many of us who have no disabilities can identify with this. You young people have, at one point or another, felt the need to belong, to be like everyone else. But your teenage angst usually passes with time. While for persons with disabilities, this need to be treated like everyone else is a lifelong aspiration. The fact that persons with disabilities continue to struggle for equality is an indictment of our society, our small-mindedness, and our failure to understand the basic principle of human rights, that all human beings are born free and equal. She is a person with a disability, but I prefer to think of her as a differently abled person.